Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about Sidman Chapter 8, which covers avoidance, and that can be found on page 123. So Sidman starts out the chapter kind of reiterating, saying that once punished, we attempt to end or get away from the punisher. We tend to tune out. And an example is if an interpersonal relationship is too taxing, we tend to kind of tune out that relationship, or he uses the words fall off. So the first section we come to is labeled an ounce of prevention. Most of our negatively reinforced behavior is supported by prevention instead of actually experiencing life's lessons or shocks, as he says. So for example, you put gas in your car before you run out of gas, instead of just, putting along. This thinking is the distinction between escape and avoidance. And he goes back and defines escape, which is something bad that actually happens to us, then we get away from it, whereas avoidance is keeping something bad or unwanted from happening. Sidman says that if you are very good at avoidance, you never have to escape anything. And he then reiterates that negative reinforcement is taking away something from the environment and decreasing the likelihood of it happening in the future. In that same subheader, he says that coercion breeds escape and avoidance. So in the next subheader, that is titled Causes of Avoidance, and that is on page 124. He says that avoidance is generalized across all species. So this is something that we see in basically all species. He said this is the same for escape, and it's an adaptive skill. Anyone who punishes is going to be conditioned, is going to become a conditioned warning signal. This is similar to the readings we saw maybe 2 weeks ago. I know there was a question talking about a conditioned punisher. So this is along the same idea. And I made a note that says once you're a warning signal, you're going to be avoided. So once people feel feel some kind of sense of danger, or feel once they have the fight or flight kind of response, then they're going to avoid you. Avoidance is more adaptive adjustment to punishment than escape, usually. And then it says the first causes of avoidance come from one's past. It lays the framework for escape or avoidance. The second cause of avoidance comes from one's present. So first, the things that happen in your past, it kind of lays a framework for avoidance, and then what's going on present day is the second cause for avoidance. Avoidance generates the possibilities of decreases in the here and now. So what's going on here and now in the present, it decreases the possibilities of the things that can go wrong. And this shows the relationship between conduct and consequence. Sidman goes on to say that avoidance is the outcome of coercion. Basically, if you're coercive, people are going to avoid you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So a way that we can spot avoidance, or a good telltale sign if someone is if someone is being coerced, is if you can see behaviors with no obvious rhyme or reason, always suspect coercion. And he gives the example: if a child resists going to school even after being made to leave home, and you don't understand why, you probably don't get the context of past events that would the context of the past events would require, or the context of past events would be required, or there would be no reason for the child's behavior. So if if you as a parent said your child needed to go to school, which is, very likely, and you made them get on the school bus and they still were not going to school, you most likely wouldn't understand why. But once you got the full story, then you would understand why. So that's when you would kind of suspect coercion. And then we get to the last subsection, which is myths surrounding coercion. And in this section, he kind of just dispels kind of rumors about, myths surrounding the causes of avoidance, and he kind of just dispels rumors surrounding what people think cause avoidance and what really does cause avoidance. And so the first myth is expectancies as causes of avoidance. And he says, bringing the future control back to the present. Lessening the pain of shots by going to the doctor's office and not receiving shots, rather than expecting to reduce pain without changing the experience first. So basically he's saying you can, most of the time, I have a child, and most of the time, whenever I say, it's time to go to the doctor, she immediately starts crying because she thinks that she's going to get shots. And the only way, she expects to get shots. And the only way I can change that experience and make her not want to avoid going to the doctor is for her to go to the doctor without getting shots. Fear and anxiety as a cause of avoidance, that's another myth. And avoidance without warning signals. This explores the subtle cause of avoidance. It's not all warning. We're not always warned when we're about to be punished. And throughout the book, this is a common theme that he refers to an experiment with rats. So he refers back to the rat experiment, and he says the rat gets shocked every 20 seconds without signal. The lever still allows for avoidance to postpone the shock. If pressing more often, the rat could avoid the shock for good. The lever being pressed more shows adaptability or avoidance. We talked about that in the beginning of our review of the chapter. So what he's basically saying is that sometimes there are no warning signals. We're not really warned. And again, adaptation is a skill learned by rats and humans alike. He also said that there's also been studies with monkeys, and he said that monkeys can keep up this contingency with the lever and remembering to press a lever to avoid shock for days on end. And lack of contact are characteristics of avoidance as well. That is chapter 8. Thank you.